At long last, Jack Hughes might be ready to return to action this weekend at the NHL All-Star Game, but members of the New Jersey Devils discourse aren't really too happy about it. And also, let's talk about the possible reunion between the Devils and an old friend, Rico, Adam Henrique. Now, would it be a fan service or is Henrique an actual player that the Devils need added to their roster? We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliotte scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils Rider for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the possible reunion between the New Jersey Devils organization and fan favorite Adam Henrique, because there are rumors going around saying that the Devils are interested in his services, considering the fact that he's getting up there in age. He's a pending unrestricted free agent on an Anaheim Ducks team that more likely than not will not make the playoffs. I think this is a good opportunity for the Devils to reunite with one of their golden players. Now, that's going to be the focus in segment 2 and segment 3. But to begin today's episode, we're going to talk about the upcoming All-Star game in Toronto because we have some good news regarding Jack Hughes and his injury update. But before we talk about that, I want to share with you some good news and bad news regarding my personal career. So the good news is that I applied for credentials for the NHL All-Star game and I got approved for them. The bad news is, due to last-minute work obligations, I will not be making the trip to Toronto to cover the All-Star game, and I have mixed emotions about it. On the one hand, I do have some cool, exciting things in the works in the future that I can't wait to share with you guys. But on the other hand, it's just like, I know that people don't really care about the All-Star game all that much. There aren't that really many interesting storylines heading into the event, and obviously the only representative from the Devils is Jack Hughes, and he might not even play in it, but it's still a great honor to get credentialed for something like that, especially with all the celebrities, the hustle and bustle in Toronto, because I have not been to Canada in years and I really need to get back to it. And not to mention that you get some of the best in the NHL under one roof. So I'm a little bummed that I can't make it to this year's All-Star game and give you guys some behind-the-scene coverage, but hopefully next year when I have some more openings in the works. Now, let's talk about Jack Hughes because, once again, we have some good news regarding his injury update. So according to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN, he said, NHL VP Sam Mayer said the Devils star Jack Hughes is still being evaluated to see if he can participate in All-Star Weekend. NHL hopes he can still be a team captain with Quinn, even if he doesn't play. Mayer was quoted to say, "We're waiting on Jack. I know he wants to play in this very badly." Keep in mind that Jack Hughes is not only representing the Devils in the All-Star game, but he's also a participant in the Skills Challenge. And as we all know, he and his brother are co-captains for their respective team because it's going to be a draft to see who plays with whom. And the celebrity accompanying them on their team is Michael Bublé, who honestly has one of the best Christmas albums of all time. But digressing a little bit, basically, that bit of news not only rejuvenated some of the Devils' discourse and left people very excited to see the star player for New Jersey possibly return, but it also left a sour taste in some Devils' discourse mouths because it's just like, why does Jack Hughes want to participate in the All-Star game, but not the regular season? Because as we all know, heading into the break, the Devils are on a 2-game losing skid, and things are getting tight in the wild card standings and also the Metro standings. So the Devils have to put their season in full gear if they really want to make a push to the playoffs, and they got to start winning more consistently. And obviously it starts on trying to win more on the second half of back-to-backs, but we'll talk about that in a future episode, I'm sure. But basically, I was really surprised to see that people were disappointed that Jack Hughes might make his return to the All-Star game. And people are just like complaining, saying like, why doesn't he want to do it for the Devils? Well, here's the thing. Having been behind the scenes before, having interviewed Jack Hughes before, I could tell you he's full in on hockey. And we already know this because this is the second time this year that he has dealt with an injury. And as you guys know, Kevin Weeks reported around that time that Jack Hughes was itching and yearning to get back onto the rink to suit up in more games for the Devils. And I think the same can be said this time around. And I've mentioned it before that sometimes the All-Star game, it's to each their own for a lot of players. Some players who have been to many All-Star games probably don't really care for it. Some players who, like Oliver Bjorkstrand, who already made travel plans in advance with his family, he's probably not the biggest fan of it, but it's still an honor to be named to represent your team in the All-Star game. But it's just like some players, it's a big deal for them. Others, it's not. Jack Hughes is in his early 20s. He's already appearing in his third All-Star game. He's trying to not only be a Devils superstar, but I think he wants to be an NHL superstar. Like, he wants to be in the same conversation as Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, all those guys who have accomplished a lot in the league already. Jack Hughes wants to be a part of that conversation in the near future. So I think participating in the All-Star game is a big deal for him. And the thing is like, Jack has not played in nearly a month. So let's just say he does not suit up in the All-Star game and he's going to play in the first game back from the break for the Devils. That will be on February 6th against the Colorado Avalanche. So if that was the case, then Jack Hughes hadn't played a game of hockey in over a month, because the last time he suited up in a game was January 5th against the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, his injury is overshadowed due to the injury that Connor Bedard suffered in the same game, thanks to Brendan Smith. But the point I'm just trying to make is that he hasn't played in a while, so why not let him participate in the All-Star game so he could get his feet back underneath him and he could get back to game speed just a little bit more, and he can also use the rest of the break to try to catch up in that regards as well. So I think it would be a good thing if he participates in the All-Star game because, one, like I said, he hasn't played in a while, and two, it gives him a warm-up. And I think the third and final thing applies to a lot of people amongst the Devils discourse is that everyone that roots for the Devils, whether you're a fan, a media member, whatever the case might be, is that everyone wants some sort of hope after the All-Star break to basically tune on the games once again and just basically root for the Devils, because it's been a series of bad events for the Devils so far with the amount of injuries, obviously the scandal that we've talked about a few times on this show. I think it's safe to say that the Devils need some sort of positive momentum after the All-Star break, and Jack Hughes returning to action, who makes the engine drive for the Devils, I think that's going to do wonders for him. So I don't know why people are complaining on social media. You don't have to question Jack Hughes' drive and determination in the sport of hockey. He's very passionate about it. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but having interviewed him before, like I said in the past, it's just like there's a reason why he doesn't like pre-game or in-game or post-game interviews, is because he's so focused on hockey. He doesn't even want to focus on the, I guess, quote unquote, Hollywood aspects of being a professional athlete. So Jack Hughes, if he could, if he sustained an injury and if he could return the next day, you best believe your bottom dollar that he will try to return. So I don't get what all the hoopla is about on social media. I really don't. I think it's a good thing that Jack wants to play in the All-Star game, because it gives him a chance to just rev up his engine just a little bit and maybe get his legs underneath him. So that way, when the Devils resume their season on February 6th against the Avalanche, which is another tough opponent that they got to play, I think he'll be ready to go and help the Devils win more consistently. So we're going to talk about some silly season discussion regarding Adam Henrique and the possibility of him coming back to the Devils organization. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. And by the way, heading into the Super Bowl, ABC, anybody but Chiefs. So happy Super Bowl to all those who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. So FanDuel has many ways that you can end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today, and you'll get a $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. That Chiefs team is just too Hollywood for my liking. Okay, let's talk about the Devils possibly reuniting with an old friend named Rico, or Adam Henrique. So the same Adam Henrique that was paired alongside Zach Parise and Ilya Kovalchuk. The same Henrique that had probably one of the biggest goals in Devils history, because I think we all go back to May 25th, 2012, Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, in which Henrique, I think we all remember that legendary call by Mike Doc Emmerich, the goal that solidified the Game 6 win in overtime for the Devils and punched their ticket to the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals. And to add on to that, against the New York Rangers. And like Matt Loughlin said when he appeared on this show back in August, that sort of helped the Devils' case of no longer being the quote-unquote little brothers to the New York Rangers. So I think Adam Henrique holds a special place in a lot of Devils fans' hearts. And I think we at the media, we also love him. I enjoyed talking to him. He's a very stand-up and nice guy. He answered both my questions very efficiently. So I have no problems with Adam Henrique. But why are we talking about Adam Henrique once again? Because it just seems like wishful thinking at this point that the Devils will reunite with them. Well, not so fast, because Elliotte Friedman was on 32 Thoughts podcast, and he said during the episode, I would find it very hard to believe the Devils in particular have not looked into Adam Henrique. Now, people have their right to speculate or their right to doubt, and that's their prerogative. But the thing is that, is it a fan service, or is Adam Henrique someone that the Devils truly need? Obviously, it is a fan service because, like I said, he had one of the biggest goals in Devils history. He remains a fan favorite. I remember when I was in attendance in the press box when he scored his first career NHL hat trick, and I don't think too many people were mad about it. Yes, they were mad that the Devils lost, but since it was Adam Henrique, it was a little more forgivable, if that makes sense. When I'm walking around the concourse at the Prudential Center, I see a lot of Henrique jerseys, so I think it's safe to say that Rico is still beloved by the Devils. Now, we all remember what happened on November 30th, 2017, when he was traded alongside with Joseph Blandisi and a third-round pick for Sami Vatanen and conditional picks in 2019 and 2020. So that kind of ended the relationship between the Devils and also Henrique. So that was definitely a sad day for a lot of Devils discourse, but there's a possibility he might return. So why Adam, you might be asking? Well, the thing is like, yes, it would be a fan service, but make no mistake, he is still very capable of being productive if he was added to the Devils roster. So let's start with some of the obvious things, because he's capable of playing center and also a winger position. But I think in this case, since the Devils lost Michael McLeod for the time being, I think he would slide in best at center, because I talk about how the Devils' depth on defense has been killing them. Well, I think the same could be said for the Devils' bottom six, because right now they're relying heavily on Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, Tyler Toffoli to do a boatload of the carrying on the top six. And then you got someone like Alexander Holtz, who's not going to be given more minutes at this point. Let's just face reality. But I think Adam Henrique can definitely be that veteran piece to help the Devils with their scoring options up and down their lineup. So he would also be a big help on special teams, because he's capable on playing on power play and also participating on the PK. So the Devils have a very mediocre PK, and their power play has started to slip the last few weeks, because just like a month or so ago, they were number one in the NHL. Now they've dropped to like the 5th position, and I don't think they've scored a power play goal in their last 5 games or so. So the Devils' power play at this point is very hit or miss, and they're on the downward spiral. But let's look at the numbers, because the old saying goes that men lie, women lie, people lie, but numbers don't lie. So while on the Anaheim Ducks this season, Adam Henrique has 32 points in 48 game appearances. So his 32 points ranks 3rd on the Ducks team. He has 17 assists, which ranks 4th on the team, 15 goals, which ranks 2nd on the team. He has an offensive point share rating of 2.3, which is 3rd on the team, a defensive point share rating of 1.1, which ranks 4th on the team. But the big thing that the Devils are going to need is a face-off specialist. Now, I talked about it in the previous episode that Thomas Nosek could be a big help for the Devils in that sort of regard. But getting Adam Henrique wouldn't hurt in the process either, because on the Ducks, he is second to Mason McTavish for second best face-off win percentage on the team, with a percentage of 53.4%. So Adam Henrique is still a very capable player. Now, I said it a little while ago in the episode, but he is getting up there in age. So currently he is 33 years of age, and his birthday is actually in a few days. It's on February 6th. So he'll be turning 34 before we know it. But just because he's getting up there in age a little bit, the numbers show it. He's still very capable of being somewhat useful for a team. So I know that the Ducks situation is a little different from the Devils situation, but once again, I think he can add more depth. He's good in the faceoff department. He's good in special teams, and he's very versatile because I know his primary position is center, but he is capable of playing a winger position as well. So I think Adam Henrique returning to the Devils would be somewhat interesting. Now, in the third and final segment, I will give you guys my final verdict as to whether or not I want the Devils to pursue him. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about eBay Motors because I'm a big car guy. So passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Okay, final verdict as to whether or not I think the Devils should pursue Adam Henrique. So I get it. It would be a bit of a fan service, and it would definitely get a bunch of headlines on social media. But when we're looking at the hockey aspect of it, I would say yes. I think Adam Henrique would be a solid addition for this Devils team, especially what they need for the time being. So here's some circumstances that also play into the favor of a possible trade scenario, is that Adam Henrique is a pending unrestricted free agent. So he's in the final year of his 5-year, $29.125 million deal. So his cap hit would be $5.825 million. Now, the thing is that he does have a modified no trade clause, so he would have to basically approve of a deal to the Devils. But I remember speaking to him last month, and he said that New Jersey always holds a special place in his heart, and he always loves coming back and reuniting with some people that made his time so special. So I don't think it would take much convincing for Henrique to want to return to New Jersey. So that's not what I'm concerned with. But at the same time, when we look at the other circumstances surrounding his contract, he's an unrestricted free agent. His cap hit, it would be $5 million, which isn't the most expensive deal. And the thing is that the Anaheim Ducks, in the current situation they're in, that might not be a high asking price if we're being realistic, because he's getting up there in age. And I think a bunch of teams, including the Devils, are aware that Henrique might just be a few month rental for them. So what could the Devils give up in order to get his services? Honestly, based on past history on how Tom Fitzgerald handles trade scenarios, I think you could convince the Ducks to take on a prospect that maybe won't be given a fair chance to showcase his skill set for the Devils. So I know he's no longer considered a prospect, but I'm not thinking of Alexander Holtz. I'm not thinking of Seamus Casey. I'm not thinking of Lenny Haminaho. Those types of prospects are off the table. But I'm thinking of some other prospects that once again probably won't see the light of day on the Devils rosters. And also, it wouldn't hurt to throw in a draft pick, because I know the first round pick for the Devils is not as clear cut, but obviously I don't think the Ducks would demand for a first round pick for Henrique. But it's like, I'm sure you can throw in maybe a later draft pick, and I think the Ducks would still accept it. So my final verdict is yes, I would love to have Henrique on the roster. I think it would be a great publicity stunt for the Devils. It would be a great marketing gimmick, but at the same time, this is not all gimmicks are bad. I think this is a gimmick that is a good example of not being bad, because you would reunite with a old friend, an old fan favorite. Obviously, he's on the other side of his better days. He's not the same player that he was 10 plus years ago. But at the same time, he's very useful. And I think that's exactly what the Devils need at this point in time. So let me know what you guys think. Would you want Adam Henrique added back onto the Devils roster? Where would you see him slide in? Because obviously he would not be with Zach Parise or Ilya Kovalchuk, and which, by the way, congratulations to former Devil Zach Parise for landing a new deal with the Colorado Avalanche. Great to see him back in the league. But yeah, curious to hear your guys' thoughts. So leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again. Also, big guest star lined up to help me celebrate episode 800. So I don't get to 8 century marks without your guys' support, because without your viewership, without your listenership, there is no show. I greatly appreciate you guys and what you've done for me entering year 4 of me hosting this show.